Luca, think about it. Every day we'll ride someplace new, and every night we'll sleep under the fish. No one to tell us what to do, just you and me out there.
After Luca blew up, everyone's hyped for a second movie, including the team behind it. According to Nielsen, the film absolutely dominated on streaming, pulling in a massive 1.573 billion minutes of watch time just in its opening weekend. It even topped the charts for original movies and was the second most streamed title that week, right behind Manifest. And the momentum kept rolling. It racked up another 1.15 billion minutes, cementing its spot as one of the biggest hits among original films. By the end of 2021, Luca had officially become the most-watched streaming film of the year, with a jaw-dropping 10.6 billion minutes viewed. And despite being a streaming release, it still pulled in $51.1 million at the box office. Critics loved it too. It got nominated for Best Animated Feature Film at both the Golden Globes and the Academy Awards. With numbers and praise like that, a sequel pretty much feels inevitable. Plus, Luca is a heartfelt and charming story about the friendships that can form over a single summer and how those connections can last a lifetime. Just like its shape-shifting main characters, the film has a lot of depth beneath the surface. Set in the 1950s, the movie follows Luca Poguro, a shy young sea monster who spends his days herding goatfish off the coast of Portorosso, Italy. One day, he crosses paths with Alberto Scorfano, a fellow sea monster living alone in an abandoned lighthouse. Alberto shows Luca an incredible secret. When sea monsters step onto land and dry off, they transform into humans. Despite his parents' strict warning to stay away from the surface, Luca can't resist sneaking out to spend time with Alberto. The two quickly become best friends, dreaming of getting a Vespa and traveling the world together. When Luca's parents find out he's been sneaking to the surface, they decide to send him to live in the deep sea with his oddball uncle, Ugo. Not wanting to leave his new life behind, Luca runs away and hides in Portorosso with Alberto. Their adventure takes a turn when they cross paths with Ercole Visconti, the town bully and 5-time Portorosso Cup champion, a quirky triathlon involving swimming, pasta eating, and biking. When Ercole tries to push Luca into a fountain to expose his secret, a local girl named Giulia Marcovaldo steps in to help. The boys team up with Giulia for the race, hoping to win the prize money and finally buy their dream Vespa. Giulia invites them to stay at her house, where they meet her father, Massimo, a fisherman with a strong prejudice against sea monsters. Meanwhile, Luca's parents sneak into town, determined to track him down. As Giulia and Luca bond over their shared love of learning, Alberto starts feeling left out. Things come to a head when Luca expresses interest in going to school. Alberto, fearing their friendship is slipping away, reveals his sea monster form in front of Giulia to sabotage the idea. Caught off guard, Luca pretends to be shocked, leaving Alberto heartbroken and vulnerable as Ercole and his gang close in to hunt him. Soon after, Giulia discovers Luca's secret too, but knowing the danger he faces, urges him to leave town for his own safety. Luca tracks down Alberto, hoping to make things right, and discovers that Alberto's father abandoned him long ago. Even though Alberto doesn't want to join the Portorosso Cup, Luca promises to win the Vespa for them to rebuild their friendship. The race kicks off with Luca and Giulia competing separately. Luca manages to get through the swimming portion in a diving suit and powers through the pasta eating contest without revealing his secret. But during the bike race, it starts to rain, a disaster for a sea monster in disguise. Just in time, Alberto shows up with an umbrella to protect Luca, but Ercole knocks it away, exposing Alberto's sea monster form in front of everyone. As the crowd watches in shock, Luca chooses to reveal himself too, and the two friends race toward the ocean together. Meanwhile, Giulia crashes into Ercole to stop him from attacking Luca and Alberto, causing herself to fall. The boys accidentally cross the finish line, but instead of celebrating, they immediately turn back to help Giulia. When Ercole and the townspeople surround them, Massimo steps up and declares that the boys won fair and square. To everyone's surprise, the humans accept the sea monsters except for Ercole, who gets tossed into a fountain by his fed-up henchmen. With their winnings, Luca and Alberto buy a used Vespa, but Alberto secretly sells it to buy a ticket train for Luca so he can go to school in Genova with Giulia. At the train station, Luca's family, Massimo, and Alberto see him off, all promising to stay in touch. As Luca heads off to start his new adventure, Giulia introduces him to her mother, and Alberto finds a new home with Massimo, who adopts him as his son. This is where the movie ends. Now, a Luca sequel would likely follow Luca and Giulia at their new school, exploring their adventures in a new environment while also revisiting places like Portorosso, the sea monster world, and other parts of northern Italy. Since the original movie is set in the 1960s, a follow-up could gradually move the timeline closer to the present. If Luca 2 doesn't come out until 2024 or later, the story might take on a college-era vibe, possibly set in the late 60s or early 70s. However, many fans might be more interested in seeing Luca's immediate experiences after the first movie. As for Pixar's plans, a sequel might already be in the works. In a June 2021 interview with Entertainment Tonight, Luca director Enrico Casarosa hinted at the possibility of a second Disney Plus movie, or even a spin-off series showing optimism about expanding Luca's world even further. When we pitched this, there was no Disney Plus at all, Casarosa says. We really think about the film first and foremost. We're now, though, in a place where people can pitch a series. I think there's wonderful new things on the horizon that are coming from Pixar in the long-term format, which are exciting. The crew loved Uncle Ugo so much that they often joked about giving him his own TV spin-off where he'd take viewers on a tour of the deep sea, thinking it's amazing even though it's actually a terrible life, Casarosa revealed. While Luca's end credits offer a peek into what happens after the story, the director and cast have also shared their own ideas about a potential sequel. When Sci-Fi asked them what they'd like to see next, they had plenty of thoughts on where Luca's journey could go. We joked because of Giulia's past and the fact that her parents are separated that there's a Parent Trap sequel here where they're trying to get Massimo and her mom back together. It was a joke, but I find that kind of funny and interesting, Casarosa says. But the reason to make a little bit of telling us what happened after is because I love to give a sense that Luca will somehow conquer the world. It was important to feel he wasn't gonna go in the world and hide in any way that he's a sea monster. Emma Berman, the voice of Giulia, agrees, saying she'd love to explore what Giulia's life is like during the rest of the year beyond the summer adventure in Luca. I think it would be really cool to see her relationship with her mom and how Luca kind of joins their family a little, the actress tells us. I think it'll be a really fun thing to see how Luca is maybe treated at school and when they find out he's a sea monster. Jack Dylan Grazer, on the other hand, would like to see Alberto Scorfano with Luca at school in Genova after the two friends parted ways at the end of the first film. And he's like, "Oh, I'm here to take a home ec class." And Luca's like, "What? Why home ec?" And he's like, "I'm married now. I need to learn how to cook and clean and do taxes." As for Luca's parents who stayed behind in Portorosso, Jim Gaffigan, the voice of Lorenzo, has his own thoughts on what the future could look like. It would be interesting to see Lorenzo and his wife adjusting to living on that world. There are so many great themes in this movie about dealing with your fears and friendships and how friends propel you to pursue things. And then Uncle Ugo could come and visit us and he would be completely unequipped. So I think it would be fun if they ended up in a really crowded city. The bottom line? We need more Uncle Ugo. A lot more. That's a wrap for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe. We've got more updates coming soon on Luca 2 and other exciting movies and series. See you next time!